Hello, this is Talking Europe. I suppose it's appropriate that I wrote this introduction in the middle of a massive heat wave when temperatures in Paris stayed in the high 30s for a week, while other areas in France sweltered in more than 40 degrees Celsius. There's no question that Europe is in the front line of the global climate crisis. But when we talk about emissions targets and energy transitions, let's not also forget the human dimension. Everyone may be hot, but not everybody faces the same risks, whether it's fixing roads or electricity towers or delivering your Uber Eats. Many people have to keep working outside. And of course, there are millions of Europeans living in poverty, in subpar housing, with no air conditioning, creaking water pipes, and so on. Well, for this episode, I'm joined by Sirpa Pietikäinen, a Finnish MEP from the European People's Party and a former Minister for the Environment in the Finnish government. Hello to you.
Hello.
And I'm also with Christophe Clergeau, a French MEP who speaks on the climate crisis on behalf of his political group, the Socialists and Democrats, of which he is vice president. Welcome back to the program as well, Christophe. Sirpa Pietikäinen, do you think the EU has not done enough to deal with these immediate problems like the heat domes and the chaos that we've seen, schools closing, trains being cancelled and so forth? Has it neglected sort of everyday resilience?
Well, we are doing now. The Commission is coming up with the climate resilience program later this year, and we are actually together preparing the health preparedness report, and of course these kind of heat waves are part of that. But you are very true about that when the first alarms came about 10 years ago about speeding up the climate change and that we are going to see the effects, we did not take that seriously enough. But if I may, I would like to add the point that we shouldn't put our focus only on today's suffering elderly people without water, without air conditioning, children, and so forth, because we need to prevent with all possible actions, the continuation of the climate change. We are now 1.5 degrees, it is what it is. Next decade it's 2 degrees up to 3 degrees. It's going to be much worse. But now we can stable and turn the curve down, but if we do not add our activities, we are going to pass over 4 degrees in 2040 and 50, and that will be total unsurvivable catastrophe.
And just to add to that, also scientists have confirmed that Europe is heating up at nearly twice the global average. That's
Exactly.
also an important point. But Christophe Clergeau, your thoughts on why we keep seemingly being caught out by these heat domes and all the problems that come with that, when actually this Parliament declared a climate emergency in 2019, but it seems to be happening again, and we're not prepared each time, really.
So first, I think we should acknowledge that Europe is the driver to mobilize everybody to tackle climate change. The Green Deal was a very important achievement. But the problem we have is that we are weakening the Green Deal and our commitment. We are going slower and slower when we should go faster and faster. In my city of Nantes, it's 42 degrees. If we have a very small addition of climate change in 1 year, it will be 44, 45, 46, it will be impossible to live anymore in our cities. So we have to act more, not to oppose attenuation and mitigation. It's the two faces on the same issue. And when we deal with adaptation, we really have to focus to the most vulnerable. Elderly people, the family with young children, those who do not have any home, or those who live in very bad flats or house. It's a social issue. It does reveal the deep inequalities in our cities and in our member states.
I'd like to come back to that point, but just on the mitigation, since you mentioned that, Christophe, and people, especially in France these days, have been calling for a debate without taboos about air conditioning, and maybe a mass air conditioning plan for Europe. And they point out that now gases which used to be allowed in air conditioners, these fluorinated refrigerant gases, as they were called, that's sort of the old era of air conditioning. They've been banned since 2024, plus we have decarbonated electricity in France. Should we have more air conditioning, and at least to alleviate suffering for people right now in 42 degrees? What do you think?
You shouldn't deal that as a main solution, because the energy efficiency isn't that good, and actually they produce the double amount of heat on the cities that are heat domes already, and about from 6 to 10 degrees warmer than the surrounding environments, and then you add up multiple degrees on top of that because of that. Well, what you can do, it's nature-based solutions. Insulation, greening of the roofs, building terraces, having green walls, greening the urban environments, and that is going to be the long-term solution.
But what? Fine.
And how you build and renovate, build back
fine. The long term, but that's the thing. I'm trying to get to this point of what you say to people now who are in 42 degrees.
That's why I said that you need it for certain groups.
Air conditioning, it's not a taboo and it's not a solution. It's the last solution when there is no alternative. And you can protect your house from sun before trying to have new equipment as a heat pump, if it's a good and modern one. And if we have to equip more people with heat pumps, they should be the more recent one with good energy efficiency, and they should be produced in Europe. Because if the Rassemblement National, the far right, is explaining that we should very quickly invest in heat pumps to buy everything in China with very bad equipment, with strong effects on the climate, it would be a nightmare for everybody. And then, yes, nature-based solution. Yes, solidarity, having in every city near your home a place where you can be a climate refugee if it's really impossible to live in your flat. It's a question of solidarity. We have to know who are the most vulnerable and to give them solution when there is a crisis. And
that could be done quite quickly, I guess.
Yes,
what you just said,
it's a very easy solution to be better organized locally. And what we try to develop...
Whereas energy renovation of building, that takes longer. I mean, France has been trying to do that for years.
They didn't really try. Because
there was a plan
all member states very slowly.
Declining budget from year to year. So when we are talking about housing in Europe, is giving access to housing to young people, for example, but it is also being able to invest massively in renovation, and very quick renovation. We do not have decades to do that. We have to do that now. If we need a new debt to finance that, it would be useful debt.
And if I may add, actually, yes, these long-term actions, they take 5 years if we are determined, and that is the renovation and deep renovation. But you need to start it now, yesterday, if you want it to be ready for the 2030 heats. And we should have this kind of safe spaces with cooling systems. And we do have those already now, like shopping centers, sports facilities, and others that could be used immediately. And the problem now is that on the high-end buildings you have air conditioning, and quite often those that are the most vulnerable, like elderly people, they live in housing that there is no air conditioning and not the possibility to have it. And there I think that you should have the targeted choice, but not all of the housing that seems to be marketed somewhere.
Christophe Clergeau, do you think we're going to go back to business as usual after the next heat dome? Because, of course, as you've said in this parliament, there's still this perception that somehow we're dealing with some extreme weather event rather than actual climate breakdown. Do you think this idea of breakdown has really got into the minds of policymakers, or will they just move on after the worst of the heat domes have passed?
We still have global objective of decarbonization, but we do not have anymore the good level of mobilization of political priorities, and it is because of far right, and it is because of EPP party. I know that Sirpa do not support that, but the majority of EPP party is jeopardizing the mobilization to tackle climate change and to protect people. So we need a big change at European level. It is possible to have it now. I hope so. If it's not now, it will have to be in 2029 in the next elections. We need a big shift at European level.
Just a quick reaction to that on your
Yes.
party's approach, for example, voting to delay the anti-deforestation law and things like that.
The problem is that nowadays the modern businesses, be it in finance or production or whatever industry, are far more radical than politics in general, be it almost whatever party. But the voices heard here in politics, in my party as well, is those laggards who say, no, 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 diesel cars, no, 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 coal, no, 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 don't change, this will pass. And the problem there is that there are a lot of people still seeing the climate as an environmental issue, not as a part of health, resilience, economic growth, or any of that. And that's why it is like sleepwalking in denial. Okay, this doesn't exist, this doesn't exist. You don't get hurt if you jump out of the 5th floor building's roof.
We'll have to stop there. We've run out of time, but thank you so much, both of you, for this very interesting discussion. Christophe Clergeau and Sirpa Pietikäinen. That's all for this edition of Talking Europe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.